one of the toughest, one of the nicest, one of the craziest to ever be in professional wrestling. I have no idea how Mick Foley is still alive, but I'm so glad he's here to tell his story. I'm John Renton with my review of WWE on A&E Biography, WWE Legends on Mick Foley. Truly one of the nicest ever in professional wrestling. Many people that met him said he's so nice, so giving, and he gave of his body, his mind, his soul to professional wrestling because he loved it and he wanted to create a memorable moment every goddamn time he went out. There's really no proper way to describe what Mick Foley gave to professional wrestling, and the fact that he is still even able to walk in general after all the crazy bumps he took, it's a fucking goddamn miracle. But this is his story. Yes, it's been told in a lot of other biographies. WWE did one. And granted, that's more WWE skewered. Not that this wouldn't be, even though A&E is working with them. But that one was like, what, 2 hours and like 10 minutes. This is only like an hour and 25 minutes with commercials taken out. But there was some good footage, family stuff. The family dynamic was really delved into, and how much pain he inflicted on himself, not just his opponents, but himself, to entertain the fans and also leave a lasting impression. It opens on, King of the Ring, 1998, the iconic Hell in a Cell match that will forever define his career, even though he's had many great matches before and even some after. That's going to be the moment that absolutely defines, well, I mean, there were moments in the match. That's going to be the match that defines who he is as a wrestler. Writing his story. He's a great author. I do remember having some of his books. This was until, they got cleaned out and I had to sell a bunch of stuff because I had to move out. I had to move houses. But I remember having his books and they were really, really great. Like, shows the intelligence and how just great he is at detailing a story and telling it in an entertaining way, but also drawing you into where, holy shit, this is what this man went through to entertain us all. Asking questions like, are you a psychopath? A masochist? Does it hurt? And yeah, it does hurt. And that was one thing about his style. It truly did hurt. So, June 28th, 1998. It was the first time that he questioned his own mortality. And then we go back to his early days in East Setauket, Long Island. I hope I pronounced that right. Talking about how it was a great community. Not to be confused with AJ Styles having issues with the gay community. But anyway, nevertheless. His parents were married for nearly 60 years. That's a long goddamn time. But when you have somebody that you absolutely love and you can hold on to them like that, get a dream, hold on to it, and shoot for the sky. And if you can do that with somebody, that's even better. Good old Dusty Rhodes quote. A bell would be rung, rather, when it was time for dinner. It was a nice little area. And then they would play a game that was called Kill the Guy Who Had the Ball, Capture the Flag, whatever. There was a version that I played in school, and that people played around here, called Smear, that I'm not going to say the other word, but it rhymed with smear, and it began with Q. Yeah, there was some ignorance going on back in school days, but nevertheless, he did talk about how he got his lip busted open. Remembered seeing how people reacted to seeing his blood flowing and actually not minding it. So that kind of gave him an idea what his calling would eventually be. Went to high school with Kevin James, who I guess is a comedian in the sense that he tells jokes. Whether they're funny or not is subject to debate. And the home movies, self-deprecating humor. I always call it self-defecating humor because I'm just weird like that. And how his dad worked for the school district. Director of Health and Physical Education, I believe is what it was. See old WWF footage where they bonded over wrestling. Superstar Billy Graham, Bruno Sammartino. They transposed a lot of the footage and everything, but nevertheless. Backyard wrestling with his friends. Doing that kind of stuff. And the insane stuff that Foley would do to his own body even then. You knew that he was going to be remembered, but whew, good fucking grief. He fell in love with Jimmy Snuka, renowned murderer Jimmy Snuka, who never spent a day in jail for what he did to Nancy Argentino. Fuck Jimmy Snuka. I'm glad he's dead. I hope he suffered mightily for what he fucking did. But Mick Foley admired him. Had to see that cage match. Snuka and Don Morocco in Madison Square Garden. Actually cut a really, really close ticket. Good shit. Good shit there. Really, really cool to see Foley there. Superfly perch 15 feet high, and then he dives on the Nancy and everything. No, I'm not going to forget that at all. But one day he said, I want to make people feel the way I felt, the way that everybody felt in that whole arena. And Foley had some bad romance thing where he had a nice date, but then the woman said, I had a nice time too, Frank. And so Frank Foley was born, and he got that frustration out by doing home movies and everything. Not home movies with Coach McGurk. If you get it, you get it. Brendan, you got to come over here. God, home movies. That was such a weird show. And his first deluge into wrestling, he was helping put up the ring and training with Dominic DeNucci. We could see footage of that. That was actually kind of the cool thing. You got to see some of that on the Foley WWE documentary that I would actually recommend you guys check out. It is on the cock, but you could check that out, and it is worth watching. But he would get low pay. He would work independence. He was just getting better and better. He admitted he was not really all that good while he had trained, and he was a good athlete. He was not built to be the classic wrestler and everything, even though he had skills. And he slept either in cheap motels or even in his car, no matter how cold it was, just to save money. He was known as one of the most, I guess, cheap people there was, or smart with his money, as it were, because one, you don't know how long this is going to last, and two, he wanted to save money. He had a reason why he wanted to save money. He wanted to make a difference, but also do what he can, pay his dues. Cactus Jack was born. Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter got him notoriety, so he got offers. CWA in Memphis. Work with Jerry Jarrett would do crazy bumps in the TV studios, and nobody was really making any money. And then he would go to World Class in like December of '88, which I believe, if I recall correctly, he was on the Super Clash 3 card, and then he was part of World Class, and then World Class pretty much died by that point. They did a merger with Jerry Jarrett, and that was the USWA. So, you know, he would be paired with Skandar Akbar, Devastation Incorporated. He would get some good, he would get some good heat, as people said, and would even get his tires slashed at one point. Like Eric Embry even said, well, that's how you know you got some heat. It was cool to hear from Robert Fuller as well. He's got to be in his mid-70s, and Tennessee stud, rather, still looks like he's in great shape. Cactus Jack Manson, though, he didn't want to be compared to, Charles Manson. I don't know who would. Then he created a style with no loopholes, how Austin and Lawler saw, all the insane bumps he took, the elbow he'd do on the floor. But his style with no loopholes it really was hurting him. He may be hurting his opponent. I mean, he was taking care of his opponent. It may hurt, but it was really hurting Mick. And Heyman said, well, his style got him attention. He got to WCW in December of '89. They glossed over the fact that Jim Cornette was a big proponent and supporter of him. Him and JR and Kevin Sullivan were on the booking committee, and they were finding ways to get him utilized as an enhancement talent, a job guy, as it were. And he would just end up having partners. The partner might get beat, or Foley might get beat, but then he would get over, as it were, by dropping the elbow on the floor onto his opponent. And Flair wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of him. He left WCW. Flair was on the booking committee, if I remember right, till about February of 1990. It was right around Wrestle War, Wrestle War, 1990, where Sting got hurt, and they didn't drop the title to Luger and everything. And don't worry, I'm going to have a lot to say about the Lex Luger biography coming up in just a few days. Oh boy, am I ever. The whole thing with Miss Elizabeth? Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Back to this, though. Went back to the independent circuit, had worked in, because he was gone by the summer of 1990. He wasn't gone there he wasn't in WCW for too long. Because Ole really didn't seem to care. Ole didn't care for much of anybody. Ole definitely didn't care for black people. If you know, you know. Just ask Teddy Long. Don't ask him on Twitter or he'll block you. So, he goes back to the independent circuit. He's kind of being seen as a top guy. He's getting, more and more attention. And while he's handing out flyers at some racetrack, he said, I just saw the most beautiful woman in my life. And I think he even told Cornette this. He told Cornette this, May told Jim Ross this. I saw the most beautiful woman in my life, and for some reason she likes me. And it was Colette, who, fucking Christ, you see those earlier pictures of Colette. Not that she looks bad now. She still looks great, but you see her, holy fucking shit. You see Foley fucking shit, as it were. Missed opportunity. You can see why Mick Foley would be captivated by her. And, genuine guy, good humor, not the ice cream and everything else. He was having the time of his life. Came back to WCW in October of 1991, and was feuding with Sting. Also teaming up with Abdullah the Butcher. He was part of that ill-fated Chamber of Horrors match. Beach Blast 1992 still holds up. That was a pretty good match with Sting. He was able to get the fans to really hate him. Flair was booking sometime in 93. Well, because Dusty was doing but they revolved bookers a lot in WCW. People that book the matches and everything and sets shit up. Flair wasn't a fan of his. It's not that he didn't appreciate his talent, but it's just the stuff he was doing to his body. Flair even said, you don't need to do that every night, and he was right. Granted, Flair's reputation has taken massive, massive hits, especially recently, since I just reviewed his last match ever. God, I got some hate for that. But fucking hell, Flair, don't really think you should be talking about all the shit that Foley was doing to his body, given all the shit you did, but Flair was a booker, and he was right. Foley did end up having a pretty short career, in all honesty, except for the occasional shots after 2000. And Meltzer talked about how the bumps will add up. Bischoff said he was a liability. The ear spot in Germany getting tangled in the ropes. Ear pushed off. And he thought that would turn into, an angle. Him and Vader could run with that. Well, they had just had a feud, they had been off and on, I think, April of 93. April, May of 93. It was around that time. Foley had taken a powerbomb from Vader, and they did the Lost in Cleveland stuff, which was terrible. Terrible stuff. Absolutely terrible. Not that Foley was terrible. It was just bad. They were spending money on this shit, and it wasn't going to matter. But Foley made it as entertaining as he could, based off at Halloween Havoc 1993 against Vader in a Texas Death Match, I believe. And then, after that, he was in tag teams, teaming with Kevin Sullivan. Brief tag title run. And then decides, well, I'm going to leave ECW, or WCW rather. He'll eventually go to ECW, but he went to IWA Japan with the deathmatch stuff. This is the only part of Foley's career I did not like. Edge, Christian, Jeff Hardy weigh in. Of course, Jeff Hardy's going to weigh in about doing a whole bunch of garbage spots because that's what Jeff Hardy was known for fucking doing. But the nails, the tacks, the frickin' barbed wire, it was all shit. It was all fucking shit. And him and Terry Funk were doing that goddamn stuff with C4 explosives and all this. And he had singed flesh. He would get home. His wife smells something burning. It's me. I'm burning. God, that deathmatch stuff is bad. Now, it got him notoriety. But if I'm going to knock the lowest of low, talent people doing this kind of shit, I got to knock somebody with actual talent like, Foley and Funk. And I mean, that's my opinion. There are people that like it. Bruce Pritchard. One thing that I agree with Bruce Pritchard on. The sky is goddamn falling. If only EO Sky would fall on me. Moving on from that some people like slasher movies. Some people like that sadistic stuff. But it doesn't always translate. He's right. Bruce Pritchard's right about something. Fucking hell. The world must be ending at some point. By the way, this fuck Bruce Pritchard forever. ECW run. He turned heel because of the Kane Dewey sign that was in reference to his 3-year-old kid, and his wife Colette was upset. So Foley decided to use that. I mean, and Foley was upset too. It's not like Foley wasn't. But he decided to use that as a way to really piss off the fans. And then he was noticed by WWE. Bruce says that he was a fan of his work. I believe it was Cornette and Jim Ross that actually pushed for that. Vince was not a fan. Vince thought Vince didn't have any talent. Vince thought it had pronouns, pal. Vince thought that Mick didn't have any talent. And they skipped over the Mason Mutilator stuff, which was probably smart, stupid name. And he, basically told his wife, get in, make some money, save money, retire at 35. Because even he knew he was not, that's the old style that he chose. Because by this point he was 31. He was born 65. So he would have been 31. Make a lot of money. the lost soul aspect, the Leatherface mask. He was talking to George the Rat, which is Cornette's rat, I believe. The feud with Taker off and on from just after Mania 12 to King of the Ring 1998. And the graveyard segment where it's pouring rain and Taker is pissed, but Foley's like, let's just make it work. He's all covered in mud, but he'll make the most of the situation. He won a lot of people over. It's going to take a while for him to win Vince over. And he doesn't drink, he doesn't party, he doesn't do any of that stuff. He's family man, not like Steamboat's Family Man theme. God, that was terrible. Fuck you, Jim Herd. And what could Foley do after the Taker feud? Well, in between feuding with Taker, he also feuded with Shawn Michaels briefly at Mind Games 96. That helped boost Shawn Michaels to be more of a brawler and everything because Foley was willing to give his body up. That match still holds up, even with the DQ finish. And then we have the sit-down interview with JR, the various pieces that play out over the course of a few weeks, and they cut out this part, but Foley's been said that we took a break in the middle of it, and I heard, Vince McMahon, I didn't know was there, say, "This is fabulous." Ha ha ha. But right there, he won Vince over, because Vince saw how articulate he was, and just talking about, Foley telling the emotional story and getting goosebumps thinking about it, throwing, not able to throw a ball with his kid, because he can't grip it. Is that where the fun starts and everything? And to be fair, Foley was the one that decided to do this style, but also the fans encouraging it. You give the fans what they want. Dude Love brought on TV because, going back to the home movies and everything, JR was even quote, "Well, it's too good not to use." And Summer 97, the Dudettes. I did not know Colette was a dudette. Some of that era kind of blends together for me. Cactus Jack in Madison Square Garden, the same night where Austin stunned Vince. And yes, Kevin Dunn, people knew who the fuck Cactus Jack was. You goddamn worthless Bucky Beavertooth motherfucker. The fact your parents didn't coat hanger you is abysmal. Yeah, I don't fucking care how bad that sounds. Kevin Dunn's a goddamn blight on society in general. And then he was kind of stagnant after that. Three Faces of Foley at the Rumble, teaming with Cactus, teaming with Cactus, Cactusception, teaming with Chainsaw Charlie, who was Terry Funk. People knew who the fuck Terry Funk was too, by the way, Kevin Dunn, you stupid motherfucker. And then he was stagnant after that. Then reigniting the feud with Undertaker at Hell in a Cell, which is the match that he's most remembered for. They show the clips and everything. I'm not going to get into a long dissertation about it, but, the one Foley off the cell. Taker didn't want to do it. Terry Funk was the one who suggested, Foley, you really need to go off the cell. Can't do a very good Terry Funk impression, I'm sorry. But he's being carted out, and I did like that one dickish fan. Got ratings now, McMahon. I don't know why that always makes me laugh. Taker's on top of the cell like, Mick, move. Mick, move, please. So he comes back. How the hell is he standing? They didn't have very good ties on the goddamn, cage roof. The Hell in a Cell roof. So they're buckling and everything. Because you got Taker that was about 305, 310 at that point. And it's more distributed, rather, because he's 6'8". And Foley was about 300, 310 at that point. So you got over 600 pounds getting on this stuff. So unless you really enforce it, And then Foley goes through the cage. It was just supposed to buckle, but he goes through. Chair hits him in the face. Tooth in the nose. All that. Uses attacks. Didn't really... I didn't like attacks, but you didn't get to see it all that often even then. Especially on WWE television. WWF at the time. And Vince even said, Cactus, thank you for everything you've done. But I never want to see anything like that again. And... yeah, Colette was not very happy, apparently, from interview pieces she said, or interview pieces she had, and then he had to go more the comedy route. Dewey weighed in. Dewey has a weird mullet. I don't know why that stuck out to me. And he's got Mr. Socko, and it was a sock that he found in his freaking drawer. And he just... Socko. It's a cheap sock that got him so over. And... they go to when he wrote the book, Have a Nice Day, worldwide bestseller, great sales. I remember having that. It was a great book. And other wrestlers were inspired to do their books that were less than good. Because Foley had a hell of a story to tell. I'm not saying other wrestlers didn't, but whatever. And then we go to how Foley was so beloved by the fans. He finally won the WWE Championship. On a taped Raw, by the way. It was taped the 28th of December, but shown on USA Network January 4th, 1999. Same night as Finger Poke of Doom, and yes, it really put butts in seats. Giovanni didn't want to say it. He was told to. And just Austin coming down, big pop, hits Rock in the head with a chair. 1, 2, 3. The crowd went, getting goddamn goosebumps. Just thinking about getting goddamn goosebumps. You can't even see it through the arm hair because I'm a hairy bastard. But just amazing. Just goddamn amazing. Foley only had like 3 weeks of a run there. And then they talk about Beyond the Mat, Royal Rumble 1999, the numerous chair shots. Colette and the kids seeing that, I believe it was just Dewey and Noel at the time because they got 4 kids. Just seeing that, being upset. Goddamn, that was just brutal. And that match is uncomfortable to watch. That match was uncomfortable to watch back then. More uncomfortable now. Since you can tell, I mean, Foley, his memory is about as good as it can get. The fact that he is basically not a drooling vegetable is a miracle. But that was brutal. Taker talked about, the chair shots were uncomfortable. Gee, Taker, what about the chair shots he gave to Canyon because he was gay? Because he fucking did that. He knows what he fucking is, and he won't fucking admit. And guess what, Taker? Karma kind of got you with all the fucking injuries and everything because you weren't exactly the most progressive thinker there. And like to take advantage of people, but that's okay. Because men were men back then. Now they just play video games. But nevertheless, Foley, he was on borrowed time. He knew that he would have to retire soon. And he did. He retired at No Way Out 2000. They skipped over the better one. It was Royal Rumble 2000. It was a great goddamn match. Show-stealing match of the fucking show. And then they glossed over how he was brought back 6 weeks later to be in the Mania 2000 main event. With Linda McMahon in his corner. Keeping one eye on Mick and one eye on the fans. Stupid twat. So, then Noelle talking about, getting to spend more time with him. She definitely got her mother's looks. Fucking Christ. How Frank the Clown, who I didn't actually know was dating her. Somebody had to tell me that. But yeah, after just seeing Ric Flair's last match, that fucking goddamn dweeb, that whatever the fuck he is, that emaciated meth addict in a clown wig and makeup, somehow landed Noelle. I mean, if she's happy with him, that's fine. But I mean, that guy looks like he should have his poster put on a goddamn school that he shouldn't be allowed within 1,000 feet of it. But anyway, Noelle talks about spending more time with him. Foley working with Rain, where that was referenced in the Bella's documentary. So, if you have been the victim of any kind of assault like that, check out the Rain website, call the number. Nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should. He came back to wrestling on occasion. He did admit, they glossed over the commissioner role, which I'm disappointed by, because he could be so entertaining doing that. He was great. Mania 20, teaming with The Rock against Evolution, minus Triple H. And then we had the Backlash match, I believe it was for the Intercontinental Championship too, but Orton beating Foley. And then Foley, they did ignore how he came back to face Carlito at Taboo Tuesday 2005. And then his better matches where he faced off against Edge and his WrestleMania moment at Mania 22. And then the feud with Flair, SummerSlam 2006. That was it. And then he would do... I want to say he wrestled in 2007, but maybe I'm just totally misremembering. But then he did go to... They gloss over the commentary role. There's only so much they can cover in a 2-hour show. He didn't enjoy being yelled at by Vince, and he decided to leave. And he actually left right after the Invasion angle ended in November 2001, and actually left for 18 months. He was just getting burned out and frustrated and wanted to do other shit. So anyway, then he goes to TNA. I didn't mind his TNA run at first, But even he admitted after a while he wasn't enjoying it. He was just there for a cash grab. I didn't mind his feud with Sting. I didn't think that was bad. The problem is they made him the world champion, and after that, after Slammiversary 2006, or 2009, that was pretty much it. He did face off against Flair, I believe, in his last recorded match. And then, well, and I believe Foley's last recorded match. And he had a brief run in the Royal Rumble 2012. He also had a run in the 2008 Royal Rumble. It didn't last very long. And then he had an Impact test. Basically, they said, you're done. You can't do this shit anymore. He was supposed to face off against Dean Ambrose, the debuting Dean Ambrose, at SummerSlam 2012. Would have killed Ambrose dead right in WWE. Nothing against Foley, but at that point, Foley in that capacity could not have given what the fans wanted. And then injuries piled up. He was in a deep, dark depression. But then he got out of it. He was doing the one-man shows. And then he realized with his couple other sons, Huey and Mickey, that Mickey had autism. Once he was diagnosed, gave him awareness. He does great awareness and charity for autism charities or movements, however you really want to say it. Bringing awareness, that's really the best way I could say it. And now he's a family man. He dresses up like Santa Claus, entertains the kids and everything. And Foley truly seen as one of the nicest guys. It was a great documentary. Great documentary piece. Biography piece, whatever. So yeah, now we continue with the rest of season 2. They still haven't replayed the Randy Savage one, which I might just watch on demand at some point, but yeah. Mick Foley, hell of a nice guy. And gave of his body, and the fact he's still around is a miracle, but I'm glad he is. So agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.